Everyone would agree that politically, America is divided more than ever. What everyone won't agree on is why. Why are we so divided? In this presentation, I'm going to use a lot of video clips and facts to show how the divide has grown to be so big. Divide is so big that Democrats often refer to Trump and his supporters as extremists.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
So let's look at the policies of Donald Trump and see just how extreme they are. Let's start with the border.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country.
I'm sorry, that wasn't Donald Trump. That was Bill Clinton in the 1990s, sounding a lot like Donald Trump. Now here's Senator Barack Obama in 2006, a couple years before he became president.
The bill before us will certainly do some good. It will authorize some badly needed funding for better fences and better security along our borders, and that should help stem some of the tide of illegal immigration in this country.
In 2008, here's what the current Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, said about illegal immigration.
When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration, which the American people overwhelmingly oppose. If you don't think it's illegal, you're not going to say it. I think it is illegal and wrong, and we have to change it. Above all else, the American people want their government to be serious about protecting the public, enforcing the rule of law, and creating a rational system of legal immigration that will proactively fit our needs rather than reactively responding to future waves of illegal immigration. People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally.
Schumer was right back then. But now that Trump wants to build a wall and stop the flow of illegal aliens into the country, it's something only extremists do. Next, let's look at abortion. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned and the issue of abortion has been sent back to the states, leaks have come out that Trump, if he's elected, is talking about trying to achieve a national 16-week abortion ban. How extreme is that? Let's compare that to European countries that the Democrats always tout as examples of how we could be more progressive. In countries like Germany and Italy, they have a 12-week ban. In France and Spain, the ban is 14 weeks. Now, I don't think if Trump gets elected, he has any chance of getting legislation passed on abortion. But is the position of a 16-week ban extreme? That's 4 months for a woman to decide what she wants to do. That doesn't seem extreme to me. Next, let's look at the hot topic of what they call gender-affirming care for children. Biden thinks it's immoral and wrong to stop children from making life-altering decisions.
Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong.
Translegislation.com keeps the public up to date on legislation that they think is extreme. They list all the bills that are introduced and passed in different states and show what they think is unacceptable in some of those bills. Let's look at a couple featured on their page. Hostile work environment, bathroom bill. A. Requiring employees to share a restroom with members of the opposite sex can create a hostile work environment. And B. It is in the public interest to ensure that all employees have access to restroom and locker room facilities that correspond to his or her biological sex. We're supposed to believe that something that was a normal way of life for as long as there have been public restrooms is now an extreme position to have on the issue. Here's another one. If a student expresses discomfort or confusion about their biological sex, the school official shall notify such student's parents of the discussion within 48 hours. No school official shall use a name to address a student other than the name registered by such student's parents. No school official shall use a pronoun that differs from such student's biological sex without the written permission of such student's parents. No school may require a school official to use a pronoun that does not match a person's biological sex if doing so would be contrary to the school official's religious or moral convictions. If a child goes to school and tells the teacher that he has gender dysphoria or that he identifies as a girl, Democrats think it's extreme to require school officials to notify the parents of what their child is going through. I would argue that it's quite the opposite. Not telling the parents about a hardship their kid may be going through is extreme. Now let's talk about a staple in the Republican Party: tax cuts. Is it extreme that Trump, like Republican presidents before him, cut taxes?
Today, I am sending to Congress my plan to provide relief to all income taxpayers, which I believe will help jumpstart the American economy.
That was George Bush back in the early 2000s. And here's Ronald Reagan back in 1975 on the Johnny Carson Show.
When you and I were boys back in the Midwest,
Right.
governments, federal, state, and local, were only taking about 15 cents out of every dollar earned. Today, they're taking almost half of every dollar earned in the United States. And most people don't realize it because the taxes are hidden in the so-called business taxes. You know, the politician that stands up and yells, "Oh, let's save the little man, let's tax business," and everybody yells, "Hooray." But they haven't figured out that every tax on business is just a part of the cost of production. And the customer winds up paying it when he buys the product. It's a hidden sales tax. There's 116 of them in the suit of clothes that each one of us is wearing.
This issue is pretty much the same today as it was almost 50 years ago. Joe Biden just told us that corporations have to pay their fair share.
It's my goal to cut the federal deficit another $3 trillion by making big corporations and very wealthy finally beginning to pay their fair share.
The Democrats were loving that. Let's think about what Reagan was telling Johnny Carson. A tax on a business is something that the customer pays for. Let's use a simple example. Imagine it cost me $3 to make a kid's toy that I sell for $5. And then the government says that for every dollar I make, I have to pay them 25 cents. My profit went from $2 for every toy I sell to $1.50. Now, if a $2 profit is what I need to keep me in business, then I'll have to raise the price of the toy. So who really pays that tax? It's been the conservative position to lower taxes for a very long time. There is nothing extreme about it. In fact, when Donald Trump cut taxes as president, the government brought in more tax revenue because of the effect it had on the economy. Now, quite often when Biden is talking about MAGA Republicans being extremists, or that the republic is in danger, he's not talking about Trump's policies. He'll say stuff like this.
You know, American democracy is under attack because the defeated former president of the United States refuses to accept the results of the 2020 election.
Trump ultimately accepted the results. He challenged the results, but you know who else challenged the results of presidential elections? Democrats.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not...
There's no debate.
I object to a certificate from the state of North Carolina based on violations of the Voting Rights Act.
There's no debate in the joint session.
I object because people are horrified by the overwhelming evidence.
Section 18, Title 3 of the United States Code prohibits debate.
I object.
I've objected to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Ohio.
I have an objection to the electoral votes.
The objection is in writing, and I don't care that it is not signed by a member of the Senate. I do not wish to debate. I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter of
objection? There's no debate.
Now, why aren't they called extremists? Or what about this?
An illegitimate president who got illegitimate foreign help. He knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
Trump has a lot of company when it comes to challenging the results of elections, or thinking that an election was stolen. So if that's extreme, the Democrats have been extremists for quite some time. Biden also likes to bring up January 6th.
Just one day before January 6th. A date forever shared in our memory because it was on that day that we nearly lost America.
That's his favorite example as to why the MAGA movement is extreme, that 1,000 unarmed people rioted at the Capitol for a couple of hours. We're supposed to believe that we almost lost America that day. They say Trump's dangerous rhetoric is what caused the riot on January 6th. So let's see what kind of rhetoric Democrats like to use.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
Okay. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
That's some pretty violent rhetoric. So what about the 2020 BLM summer of riots? Democrats and their media mouthpieces called them mostly peaceful while cities burned. Using their logic, the riot at the Capitol was mostly peaceful. According to Newsweek, the FBI and the Secret Service put the number in attendance at the Capitol on January 6th at around 120,000. If only around 1,000 people rioted, that would make the January 6th protest more than 99% peaceful. Had it been BLM at the Capitol that day, the media would have reported it as being an overwhelmingly peaceful protest. Okay, to summarize. Trump's biggest policy positions are either in line with Democrats from 20 years ago, consistent with the Republican Party's position for a half century, or similar to the current progressive countries of Europe. And when it comes to the claims that Trump and the MAGA Republicans are extreme, Biden simply forgets to mention that many Democrats and their supporters are guilty of the same things and worse. The rhetoric Democrats often use describes Trump, a person who advocates for fewer taxes and less government regulation, as a wannabe fascist dictator. Are there any examples throughout history of a fascist dictator who wants their government to have less power over the people? Would a fascist dictator talk about the federal government possibly getting rid of the Department of Education to let the states be in control of educating their children? Not a chance. From where I'm sitting, it looks like the Democrats have taken their party so far left, they're unrecognizable. Their party has taken many positions that most Americans don't agree with. And that means they have to resort to their strategy of scare tactics. And that's why a person like Donald Trump, who is basically a classic liberal, something akin to a 1990s Democrat, is now considered a right-wing extremist Republican. That's why we're so divided. And that's the simple truth. Hey guys, thanks for watching. And if you all want to support this channel, check out the links in the description, and let's keep putting some common sense back into the great debate.